relief rally, or would you say that we're responding to fundamental factors, Sasha?
Well, I don't know if you include politicians in any sort of fundamentals, but at least there's a timeline, and I think markets appreciate some sort of certainty. So the fact that the rest of the world is putting pressure on the Europeans now to say, hey guys, come on, come up with some sort of solution. And they've been given 8 days. What did the Beatles song? 8 days a week? That's seemingly far too short, but for too long they've been putting out too many fires. And even if it means more than a 21% haircut, I'm all in agreement. I got more than a 21% haircut this weekend. But even if it's more than that, and it's as much as 50%, at least people have certainty.
Absolutely. So it is about putting out these fires, but it's not only about Greece, it's about the other peripheral Eurozone countries. And again, we keep talking about this. Do you think that all of this news has actually been priced in? Because we've known about this for such a long time. We know what devastation a possible default or more trouble out of Italy could actually create. So is it priced into the market? Can we say with quite a bit of positivity that we know what's been priced in and we can move on from here?
I think so, and that's what market participants have been telling you for about the last 10 days or so. So seemingly the rally from last Monday and even the prior week through to here, it was a big week in America. You know, what are we now down? About 2.5% for the year. So we're heading slowly towards even keel for the year. In what's been a very, very tough year for market participants.
Well, one stock that has actually really been outperforming the market is Optimum Coal. It's up about 28%.
Optimum Coal,
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Glencore buying a bigger stake, and it seems that it's just doing this on a monthly basis. We keep hearing news of this.
Doing it wherever they see liquidity, wherever they can get stock.
Exactly,
yes.
And now bringing up their stake to just under 29%. It's quite an interesting move. Does this make you wonder why that you should perhaps be buying into Optimum Coal as well? Should you be in the coal market as a whole? If you've got Glencore being so interested in the South African coal space, what does that make you think as an investor?
Yeah, look, I think the two biggest coal-fired power stations are busy being completed as we speak, although it's going to take the next 4 or 5 years. And I know this is something that's quite close to your heart, these terrible emitting. And in fact, South Africa was rumoured last week to be on a path to be talking about more nuclear power. So whereas the Germans might be downscaling, the Japanese are still talking about it, we're going to be upscaling. So I think that's the trend in the developing market. You're going to see more, more nuclear power stations. So is coal for the next 30 years, 40 years? I'm not quite sure. It's got a time horizon, but I think, in terms of steel production, I'd rather be going for that sort of coal.
Okay, so I mean, would you be buying Optimum Coal at this level?
No,
Stealing
not
liquidity away from Glencore?
No, because I think they've set a price. They've set a specific price and they've put in a ceiling there, so I don't think there's too much more to gain out of it.
Okay, let's touch on two indices that you enjoy looking at. The Moy River Index is one of the indices you like looking at, and it basically just shows the amount of trucks that actually go through the toll system in South Africa. Give us a little bit more insight into why this index is important.
Okay, for those people who've never travelled that road, this is the main arterial route between Johannesburg and Durban. So it's where all the economy happens and where our biggest port is. And so what this measure is basically 5 or more axles. So those are big trucks carrying either containers or big bulky goods. And this grey line here, that's the 2011. And in fact, September is the second best month ever over the last 5 years, with the month prior to that, August. But that's just because it had a few more days. I think it had 2 more days. So definitely heading in the right direction. So I guess these numbers will be key because this is quite a big time of the year where people are moving stuff backwards and forwards before a pretty poor time of the year. So these are the kind of graphs I like looking at, Eleni.
And also even higher than the 2007 levels, which
100%,
is obviously very,
100%.
very
but what's missing in this, if you had to overlay this against perhaps Spoornet data, which I haven't been able to lay my hands on yet, maybe you'll get a bigger picture. So is road traffic taking away from railroad traffic? I guess
that's an interesting point, absolutely.
I'm in the process of getting that, and I'm pretty close, and that'll be interesting. But there are other signs. Cement sales are the next one, which suggesting...
Hold on, just before we jump to cement sales, with regards to the Moy River Index, I mean, the reason that you look at this, it actually just shows the amount of demand for goods that we're actually starting to see and the flow of goods from the ports.
Correct, so it's imported goods back to the Highveld, and of course it's raw materials back down. So this is traffic backwards and forwards.
So this is for you a sign of strong economic growth to come.
Well, like I
Or it's
said, I
already
need to
exists?
be able to see the other side of the data, which I'm quite close to being able to get, and then getting maybe a 5-year time horizon to see maybe if the roads data, and anybody who travels this road knows that there's more and more and more truck traffic on that road.
Okay, the cement sales, and I know it's something very close to your heart because I know you've been watching PPC very closely. It
For
is
years.
for years, and many people selling out of PPC at a time where you still held on. PPC not recovering as much as it should this year so far, but let's look at cement sales and what this actually means for the likes of PPC and other cement companies in the country.
I guess this is the daily average. So what they do is this is from the SA Cement and Concrete Institute. These are also released on a monthly basis. So what you're seeing here, this little blue line, that's 2011. So what you're starting to see is it pick up to a run rate that's only been seen twice since the beginning of 2009. And this is on a daily basis. So it's selling over 50,000 tons of cement a day. And in fact, the overall month, the month of September, was the best month that we've seen out of all of these years. So again, maybe a sign that cement demand is starting to come back quite strongly. And in fact, the second or third month this year that we've seen over 1 million tons for the month. And just to give people an indication, the whole of 2010, there was only 1 month above 1 million tons. So maybe things are starting to improve.
Okay, in December we can't actually take into account because construction doesn't occur.
Oh, what
essentially
happens here? These people are lazy and go on holiday.
Yeah. Go on holiday. But just, if you look at some of the upward trends, we always see it followed by a downward trend in most cases. Is that a concern for you, Sasha? Do you think that this is just...
No, I've been watching this number quite closely, and if you plot it over a longer period, you start to see some sort of bottoming here and you start to see it rising. So if you've been watching it for as long as you're seeing this blue line tick above both of these lines, that indicates, so this one's a much better indication because that's the monthly number. So that's the overall month. So you're starting to see it tick above those levels. What will be interesting is to go back to 2007. In fact, this line will still be comfortably below that. But those were more go-go days. So I think, on balance, maybe this is representing a recovery from suppressed levels.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the go-go days, 2005 to 2007, especially within the construction industry, and we saw quite a lot of companies listing on the exchange because there was
On
just
the alternative exchange.
Smaller construction companies, and that's starting to be reversed quite extensively. Are we at a more manageable level?
I think so. I think that's obviously what it's starting to indicate. And in fact, one of the small home builders this morning, which you had on this channel, started to indicate that things are starting to improve a little bit.
Let's get the PPC graph up. What is your sense on PPC? Would you be accumulating at these levels? Are you concerned?
Yeah, I think the analyst consensus is still at, the stock is a sell, because I don't think they're even going to make 2 rands worth of earnings in this year, and maybe next year the recovery is going to be kind of tentative. But if you want to be participating in a space where you're seeing infrastructural growth, and we certainly know that we're a long way behind, and these power stations that we were talking about earlier still need a lot of cement. So I think on balance as a company, it's been around, listed for over 100 years. This is a company that's been around since 1895, great dividend pay. You want to be owning it because I tell you, the share price is going to move.
And I don't have time to get into the overcapacity within this industry, but we will next time, Sasha. So I've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining.